Yeah, that song was intense. A little bit of some orchestra for you. Some of you might know where that song's from. I'll let you guess. Chris T, you might know. Intense music because it's an intense time in our league. I know the playoffs aren't starting quite yet, but identities are being formed here. And the Week 13 uh, Weekend Warriors podcast here, we're going to focus on what those identities are and coming down the stretch, it is going to be tight. Now, some people's destinies have already been written in stone, or pretty much. We've said that Valone, Pearson, and Chris have never really been out of it, but with all of them, all of those teams losing last week, it certainly did not help their chances. It's 4 in a row for Pearson. That last loss, I think Chris had to run the table, so their percentage of the playoffs are at 0. Dean's at 1%, and his story's pretty much etched in stone too. Everybody else, spoilers off the table, and you're in the hunt. Terry, quiet as a church mouse, and the catbird seat. No worries in the world. Great team. Jake, right behind him. Terry 5 in a row, Jake 2 in a row after losing to me. But both of those guys, I think, have more running backs than... I looked at Jake's team. He has about 7 running backs better than my number 1, and I traded him Gibson, so it's my own fault. I didn't think Gibson would have this type of resurgence, and I wish I could take that back, but hey, trades are trades. Ask Brett about Antonio Brown. Somebody's going to win it, somebody's going to lose it, so that's kind of the way it goes. I bet Otley could take back trading DeAndre Swift at this point too, but it is what it is. A lot of guys have gotten injured, so Terry and Jake at the top. Myself, am I in a good position? Not really. I mean, I'm 8-4 with a good amount of points, 2 losses in a row, and I have no running backs. My best running back right now is Mark Ingram. He plays tonight. We'll see how he goes. So I'm in the mix, likely to make the playoffs, but who knows at this point. I need to definitely win at least one more game, if not 2. Otley, he's waving the white flag. He's in the 4th spot right now. He said, I got Terry this week. I'm done in. He sent me a white flag emoji. And I guess that's good news for the guys behind him, Kevin and Brett. Brett sent me a text last week. I'm coming out for a vengeance. I'm going to win this week. I haven't won in the month of November in fantasy football. He beats me by a hair. He scored about 92 points. I scored about 86. So, I mean, just nobody wants this last spot. And then there's Kevin, who, we didn't mention, has a good team. Battling through injuries himself. Aaron Jones back, but now DeAndre Swift is out. So just a lot of meddling in the middle. It looks like there's a collision course. Last year it looked like there was a collision course between Kevin and Pearson. They were rivals all year. This year it looks like it's Terry and Jake. They have the 2 best teams by far. I think it's Terry way up top, Jake pretty close, big drop off, and then I want to say mine was 3rd at one point, but without Henry, it's who knows. So, just craziness coming down the stretch. It's going to be a crazy last 3 weeks left to see how the standings shake out, and it's going to be fun. So, to jump into the recap, I am making a comeback in my NFL picks. I am 4-0 in my last 4 picks given out on this pod. 4 in a row on Thursday Night Football. So you want to listen up. I started out bad. At one point, I think I was like 5-11. And I could have given up or started taking 6-7 picks, like my buddy Big Cat on the Barstool Sports Advisor show. But I said I got to stay the course. 1 Thursday night game, 1 regular slate game, and now I'm 11-13. It's not a great record, but to be even close to 500 after the way I started, I'm getting hot at the right time. You want to take my picks. And tonight my pick is the Cowboys minus 6.5. That is such a chalky pick. No one thinks the Saints can win, but sometimes you need to be on that chalky side. And the Cowboys coming off a loss. The Saints are just dead. They're missing their tackles. They're missing Alvin Kamara. The Cowboys take care of business. The only way that the Saints cover in this game is on a backdoor. Taysom Hill, coming down with a couple minutes left, and the Cowboys just aren't able to stop them. That could very well happen, but I'm taking the Cowboys. You heard it here first. I've been making you guys money. Listen to this pick. You can get minus 2.5 for the Cowboys at even money on FanDuel. Maximum $50 bet. Take that bet. Take a minus 6.5, but also take a minus 2.5. I am your savior. I am your man. Cowboys lock it in. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna make you wait for the other pick. People are perusing my pod now, just looking for my picks. I'm not just gonna give them out both at the same time. So last week, ho hum, another 3-2 performance for the fantasy matchups. That brings me to 35-25 on the year. And the high score of the week, stop me if you heard this before, is Terry with $125. He is $25 away from recouping his entry fee on high scores of the week alone. So again, total domination. Guy's killing us right now. So, but this week, moving into the matchups, I'm going to kind of just do it in order of what I think are most important. I've done that before. But, most important, two names you're not going to want to hear, Valone versus Chris. Now, this game matters to the tune of, there's still a $25 prize for the high score of the week. You're fighting for that. But also, these two teams are jockeying with Pearson not to come in last. You come in last, you get your team named by the winner next year, and you got to videotape yourself giving the trophy to the winner. So, listen, somebody might be walking to the Carolinas with a trophy this year, the way this thing is trending. But in any event, Chris versus Chris, Valone versus CT. Valone beat him the first time they met. And Valone's kind of due here. I picked him to win last week against Terry. That was just stupid. And I still went 3-2. Saquon not been good, but he's playing against the Dolphins. This is his chance. Elijah Mitchell, best waiver pickup on the season. When Valone did drop a bunch of fab on him, it didn't look too smart, but now obviously he's the bell cow on a team that wants to run the ball 99 out of 100 times. Chris, Chubb on bye. Mixon's been absolutely ridiculous. Murray is back. But I think it might be a tough week for Mooney in this matchup. It could be a tough week for Murray in his first game back. Dak tonight against the Saints, think does enough. It's the first time he's going to have Gallup, Cooper, and Lamb together for, I don't know, quite some time. We're going to take Valone. He's predicted to lose. I think he gets it done over Chris here in Week 13. So Valone over Chris. Moving on to the next matchup. I'm going to make sure I get my order right here. I had them ordered. Oh, it's the rivalry I mentioned last year, Kev versus Pearson. They've both been quiet. I guess maybe they really are just, over their rivalry and they found true love or something. But they did play earlier this year, and Kev was able to beat Pearson. That's not surprising the way Pearson's year has gone. But Kev, in a week where he's got no Swift, in a week where Aaron Jones is on bye, he's catching Pearson at the right time. And unfortunately, Pearson was hoping he would have Kamara back in, but he's not going to play. So he's going to have to make some adjustments there. And he does have Clyde back, but Burrow's been, lackluster for sure. So Miles Sanders against the Jets, that's what Pearson's going to need. But, Herbert's been great for Kevin. Montgomery back and been healthy. He's been a bell cow. Jalen Waddle's been really good, and my boy Justin Jefferson. So another guy who's been good for Kevin is Hunter Renfrow. He loves that guy. Pearson's father rolls here versus Pearson. Pearson's father rolls versus Pearson here in Week 13. I'm taking Kev. Moving on to the next matchup, it's Otley and Terry. This matchup matters significantly because Otley's pushing for a spot, but I don't know how in the world he would beat Terry. Jonathan Taylor at Houston. I think if he only started Jonathan Taylor and nobody else, he'd probably still win. Josh Allen, tough matchup. Patterson's been great. Tyreek Hill, Lamb back, Deontay Johnson. Just a great mixture of, high volatile guys like Patterson who could score a couple touchdowns, and safety with Deontay Johnson, who every week so far this year has scored at least 8.5 points and over 10 in every game but two. So very, very solid. Ott needs to get healthy at the running back position, and the only way he's going to get healthy really is Dalvin Cook. But Javonte Williams maybe has a bigger role this week if Melvin Gordon's banged up. Mike Williams been hot or cold. Needs a big week from Travis Kelce. Not sure what he's going to get from Singletary. Ott in the same boat at running back, I get it. But Terry's predicted to win by 32 points, and I do not see Otley being able to compete in this one. So Kev wins, Otley loses. they would be tied, and it'll be very interesting. So, the matchup of the week, I'm taking Terry, by the way. The matchup of the week, Brett hates when I put him in there. I'm putting him in there. It's Brett versus my brother. Brett, of all these middling teams, has a lot of firepower in Zeke, who's been banged up, but Jerry Jones says he's going to get a full workload. Najee Harris, bad week last week. He should bounce back. Damian Harris, he's been pretty good. And Stafford, I think, finally bounces back this week against Jacksonville. The Rams got to get it going. But on the other side of the ball, like I mentioned, Gibson's playing great for Jake. Fournette with a 4-bagger of touchdowns last week. And Alexander Madison. Jake's been holding on to him. And for good reason. Jake has James Robinson, Melvin Gordon, Devontae Freeman, and Myles Gaskin on his bench. All guys that some people would love to start. But Jake doesn't have room for him, so they're not starting for him. And big loss for Jake is no Devontae Adams, but he's still got Diggs, Cook, and Pittman. Pittman's been quiet, but I think he has maybe a bounce-back week. And speaking of bounce-back week, Lamar at Pittsburgh. Lamar had his worst game of the year last week. Pittsburgh has looked pretty bad. I think Lamar gets it right this week. I'm taking Can You Dig It? Don't bet against Jake right now. Brett got off the snide last week, but barely. And Brett needs to win this week. Jake needs to solidify his number 2, potentially number 1 spot in the league. And I'm taking Can You Dig It over Brett here in week 13. Before I give my pick here versus my dad, which is another good matchup, it's probably the second best matchup of the week, even though Dean is eliminated. His team is pretty good. Before I get into that, my other pick on the slate, I almost took Eagles -7 because I think them coming off a loss, people are down on them and they're going to come back. But another team coming off a loss versus a team who's coming off a huge win. LA Chargers at Cincinnati +3. The Chargers +3 coming off a loss against Denver. Cincinnati boat raced Pittsburgh. I think the Chargers keep this game close. I think they can win it outright. But I'm taking the points +3 LA Chargers over the Cincinnati Bengals. That's my other pick. If I hit both of these, I'm 13-13 on the year. And going into week 14, even, baby. So let's see what happens. That would be 6 in a row. I'm getting a little hype. Let's start with the Cowboys tonight. But my matchup against my dad, look, Dean has had a pretty good team all year, and just guys have let him down. Last week, he could have beat Kevin, turned it on his head. They would be tied right now and both fighting for a spot. If Metcalf would have outscored Seattle's defense, I think he was already up points, and Seattle's defense needed to outscore Metcalf by 4 or 5. Seattle's defense takes back an extra point for 2 points, and Metcalf has 1 catch. It's just that type of year. There's been weeks where Dean's needed points from Mahomes, hasn't gotten them. Christian McCaffrey rolled his ankle. He looked like he was okay, could have came back in. He's out for the season. It's just been that year for Dean. He's still got James Conner, who's been his MVP for sure. He's got Mahomes Sunday night. Darrell Henderson's a little banged up, but if he plays, he's playing at home against Jacksonville. He's got good players. Devontae Smith against the Jets. So for me, what do? My RB1 is Mark Ingram. I need to win at least 1 or 2 weeks here. Mark Ingram at home tonight against Dallas in a game where I think Dallas wins big. I just need Ingram to try to get 10 points. How I'm going to win this week is Tom Brady. Tom Brady, when he plays Atlanta, he played him earlier this year. He threw for 276 and 5 touchdowns. Okay, Chris Godwin has scored a touchdown in 6 consecutive games against the Atlanta Falcons. Take him to score a touchdown. He averages 95 yards and 1.5 touchdowns against Atlanta in his career. That's a stat. I heard that today. That's how I'm going to win. Is Brady to Godwin, Cooper Kupp, and hopefully George Kittle and Ayuk with no Debo do enough for me, and I get 15 points combined out of the running back position, and I just barely am able to beat Dean. I'm scratching and clawing to stay alive. A lot of us are. It's going to be an interesting run down the stretch. I wish everyone good luck in their endeavors. Happy fantasy, and have fun watching the game tonight. Kamish out.